entire string to know whether it's a solution and look at it basically to know to classify it.
I've already decrypted all 97,000. I just have to look through the file, which I'm going to do through a computer because otherwise that would be terrible.
Get started.
Showering for an average.
Welcome back to localhost.
We have an entire agency.
So we'll be meeting every Thursday
helping
from now on.
fix leaky faucets in our country. And if you add up all the leaky faucets in our country, it's like equivalent to.
Yeah, I don't think we have any announcements.
Like to someone eating a steak and waiting 2 weeks and then eating another steak.
Oh yeah, alright, great. Guys, look at this is CSS modules.
And
Cool.
it was paid off by the agriculturalists.
Yeah, who here?
Faucets instead of
That's
stopping
very
their
distracting.
waste.
Alright. Sorry.
That's fun.
Who here knows what CSS is? Yeah, I'm sure everyone does. Basically, it's like a thing that we use to style things on the web. And recently, the way we write front ends on the web has changed a lot. Like before, we used to make an HTML file and just like link your CSS and JavaScript. Now we have like tools like Webpack and React and all these great view frameworks to make our JavaScript modular, so teams can build quickly on top of your application without like needing to know about the entire state of the application. So this is like an example of what. Oh, that's terrible. Can we make it darker in here? Is that probably bigger than the second floor? No, that's brighter. Oh yes, okay. There, now you can actually read some text. So this is React. It's basically allows you to contain some HTML, and so it defines. You can define your data requirements for a component, and you can then take the data and render it into div. So basically into something, some DOM. So basically it allows you to specify what HTML you want to render for a piece of for some data. So you can basically put your HTML into boxes and put them all over your app and reuse them. It's nice and modular. And here's an example. So when this thing renders, it'll put the name Taylor up here because so this prop maps to this name. This name prop maps to that string there, and it puts it in the div, and it puts that div inside of this node, which is in the DOM. So basically, it'll just say hello Taylor, hello world, basically, like with a custom name. So yeah. But what about CSS, right? We have CSS, if you've ever used it before, it just kind of like puts everything in the global namespace. So how can we kind of reconcile our nice modular components into, how can we use, because we need to use CSS to style our applications, right, and to make them look nice. How do we use CSS and keep it modular just like our components? So here's basically an example of how this is the way that you normally use CSS in like a React app. You just import your CSS file, and that will this gets run through Webpack. And usually what Webpack does is it'll inject the CSS file into your application somewhere, so it'll like go to the head and put it in a style tag or a link tag. And it'll load your CSS. But see, this style here goes into the global namespace. So if you use that name anywhere else, again, like I'm here we're using it to style this component, the div. If we use that name anywhere else, it's going to, if we have like a second file, basically this isn't modular, and I'll show you why here. So if we have like a second file which uses the same name, it basically, what color the div is depends on the order that the CSS was applied. So if the other style sheet came first, it would be that style sheet. So basically this style isn't scoped to this component, it's just put in the global namespace, and they find it out based on order. So it's kind of non-deterministic, and you really need to know what you can and can't use for these selector names, these class names. And that is annoying. Yeah, which style is applied depends on the order in which the styles are loaded, and yeah, everything goes in the global scope. So yeah, this is basically, so one way we can fix this is by changing the names of the classes. So we can try to maybe like create a unique name for each component. So cowboy hello message is a different component, just like hello message, but instead it says howdy instead of hello. Cowboy, yeah. So anyway, we can change the class name based on the component name, and that kind of helps us, but that's like a rule that we need to remember every time we create classes, and it's kind of annoying. So how can we solve this? With CSS modules. So logo, I didn't draw that, it's part of the thing. And these allow you to scope classes to a certain file. So instead of when you define a class in CSS, it's not going to just be applied to every instance of that class, it's applied to every instance of that class in your file. So basically how it works is you write your CSS down here like this. So we can give it any class name. Now we don't have to worry about naming at all because it's scoped. So we're just going to say background orange, and up top we import an object from the CSS. So this is handled by Webpack, and basically it's an object of all the classes inside of the style sheet. So message is the only one here, so the only thing in that object is styles.message. And basically that is this class name gets like scrambled up. So basically this class name is unique to this file, right? So if you create this class somewhere else, it's going to be a different class name when you import it. And then we place that directly, instead of placing a string class name, we reference the class name that was generated from this file over here. And that's really nice because it allows us to, for one, if you use an IDE, you want to see all the places where like a certain style is being used. All you need to do is just like basically there's a mapping from styles here directly to a class name or a place where it's used, rather than just having a string with the same name. So it's easier for tools to pick up on this, and allows your classes to be scoped to components basically. So. And one more thing, so like if you have modularity, something that you can do with that is usually composition. And CSS modules also has composition. So if you want to, you have two classes, there should be a dot on the left of that's a class, the first thing. If you have two classes and you want one class to compose the other class, so basically you want to take all the things from the top class and put it essentially in this class here. You can do that using this composes keyword, this composes rule, and basically what it'll do is it'll apply both of these classes wherever you import other class names. But in effect, it basically copies the rules over to everything that you compose it with. And one thing that's really useful is you can even do this across files. So if you want to compose a class name, compose a class from another file, like say you have like this universal button style and you have your special button, and you want to compose the style from the normal button and change like a couple of things, you can do it by just referencing the path of the style. Like that. And if you want to use it, so a lot of people. Who here has heard of Webpack before, or has not heard of Webpack before? Actually, it's probably a good. Okay, so Webpack is a bundler for your front-end JavaScript and basically for your web application. So it exposes kind of an interface for your JavaScript to import like CSS and like images, basically anything that you want. You can define your own. And so like for example here, if we look at, I guess we could go back. So this thing here, so this is JavaScript here, right? And so like what the Webpack idea is to compile everything into as few files as possible, right? So you want, because before HTTP2, it costed more to like ship 2 files than 1. Now it's not so much of a problem, but we still do it anyway. So basically, what it does is this import here gets changed to some JavaScript that when it's run will take the styles from that CSS file at runtime and inject it into like the head tag. with like a style tag or a link tag, depending on how you bundle it. So basically, Webpack allows you to transform those imports to do basically whatever you want with JavaScript, and in effect, that allows you to bundle your entire application into like 5 or 6 files, and it's supposed to be faster to ship down. That's kind of the idea of Webpack. But basically, you can plug in different things, and the CSS modules is implemented as a Webpack plugin. It's a loader. Basically, you give it an import, it transforms it to do something else. In this case, load CSS with module level scoping. So it's on NPM, and there's like a tutorial in the README for how to add it. Basically, you just turn on a flag and you get CSS modules, and that is CSS modules in a nutshell and how to use it. Any questions? Is anyone confused? Go for it.
I heard about Webpack a couple of days ago, actually.
Okay.
And from your description, it makes me think, why bother? It sounds like yet another layer of overhead to tack onto here.
Okay, that is a good question. Yes.
I don't see what it gets me.
So basically, what it gets you is there are like 2 things. So one is the bundling, so putting all your assets together. But like now we have HTTP2, and it doesn't really make sense. And 2, so like that's not really a point. But the second thing that it gets you is a unified interface to access like files that are not JavaScript from inside of JavaScript. So it allows you to import, like for example, it allows you to write loaders which do things like expose styles as an object, which we can then use to refer to class names. So you can expose like, basically it's a build tool that, let me think about this for a second. So it's a build tool that allows you to consistently build your assets. So instead of like chaining 5 different things together, like, okay, I will process my CSS here, and then my JavaScript here. It's kind of like a big box that you put everything into, install loaders into, and then it will expose everything as JavaScript, and it'll transform. Like you could unify that CSS before at build time, and do other things like expose the styles object. So I guess it's basically a build tool, and it's necessary for, I guess, consistency.
So then once it's compiled everything, then can it just stand on its own and you don't need
Yeah.
original?
No, this is not, it's a build tool, it's not runtime.
Then you don't need the original JavaScript.
No, you don't. You get like a nice minified bundle that you just include, and it'll influence your web page in the ways that you define.
It just made me think that eliminates the problem of the order that you load things in. When the page loads, sometimes something doesn't get in and it breaks the whole page.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It solves that problem too. Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions? Go for it.
Do you have trouble debugging things since it's mushed everything together?
So there's there's this thing called source maps, which basically allow you to map a line of like compiled code to a line of uncompiled code. So when you're looking at it in the dev tools, it's not really that bad. And also, if you don't minify the code, it's actually pretty readable. It's not like super spaghetti-ish, and yeah. So it's not, debugging isn't a problem that I've had when using this. So anyone else? Questions? Confused completely about everything? All right, good. I didn't fail, I think.
I'll hold it for later. Well, just like what you brought up the point, future development. Do I need my original source files, or can I just use my Webpack thing?
Okay, so ideally
new stuff.
So ideally, like kind of the process. So for a project with Webpack, you hold on to your original source files. You commit those into like your source code management thing, like Git. And when you want to build and deploy your website, you run Webpack, and it'll process all of your source code, and it'll emit some HTML, some JavaScript, and some CSS that you just need to host somewhere, usually statically. You don't need to. Usually, it doesn't require like. You basically just get a static bundle that you serve up. So yes, you should keep your source code around. Does that answer your question, or is that?
For now.
Okay.
I'm an absolute newbie. I just heard the word webhook like 2 days ago. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I should, yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense so far.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can talk after if you're confused about anything.
It almost sounds like PHP, where it does some pre-processing and then it delivers the final product to the client.
Yeah.
Can I think of it that way?
Yeah, I guess you could. But the pre-processing isn't done on every request. It's just done once when you build it.
And the server does all this?
So no, this.
I wouldn't see any of this.
So basically, what happens is you build it when it before you want to deploy, you build it once, and it's static. So the server doesn't need to evaluate any of the bytes in the thing that's going to be delivered. It just sends it over. And if you want to add dynamic behavior, you add an API on the server, and then you talk to that API from the web app. Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
No, go for it. It's
No, I got
it's
it.
fine. It's
Question a minute here.
all right. Well, if if no one has questions, or I guess come see me if you have questions after. It's up to Dan now. He can take over.
Thank you.
Yay.
That's all we had for today, so see you next week. Yeah.
Great. Okay, let's talk.
Is Webpack popular now? You sound like you're literal fluent in it. How much is it being used?